So, autistic burnout is awful on its own. It's terrible. No one likes it. It's exhausting. It takes over almost all of your life, unfortunately. But there's this other thing that oftentimes happens during autistic burnout, and it's that we sort of end up doing this extra amount of masking. And it's masking so we make other people feel better about our potential recovery while we're recovering. It's like we're putting on this hat of autistic burnout survivor or something, where we're really just doing this to kind of people please in a very neuronormative way of the person who's getting better from autistic burnout. It's really like this sense of telling somebody that you're getting better in some kind of neuronormative recovery pattern. Like, I'm getting a little bit better each week, and like somebody should be doing or something. But we're not really, because autistic burnout is this whole process of, getting better for a while, and then we get worse for a while. Things are worse, and or things go sideways, or things are very unexpected, or things are just confusing. And it doesn't really work in the same way that other situations of getting better do. And for me, there's this other thing of where I just oftentimes don't even really know how I feel in the moment, right? Because we have alexithymia, we have different interoception. That's definitely true for me. So if anyone asks like how I'm doing, I'm so accustomed to just answer in the way that they expect, right? Like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, it's better. Thanks. The sort of like the not real answer that people expect. I'm so used to doing that. I also do that because of this not knowing, because if I say, oh, I don't know, oh, I never know, oh, I don't really know how I feel. Like, if you've ever done this, you've probably seen that face that kind of looks back at you like, what kind of answer is that? That wasn't at all what I was expecting. What does that even mean? Why don't you know how you feel? Or the face of, I don't really believe you. Like, do you just want attention or something? But it is the real honest answer. The honest answer is, I'm not great, but I don't really know. I don't know why or how or what it's actually like. That would be the honest answer, but that's not what anybody seems to want to hear. And I also think there's a little bit of panic in there too, right? For a fast answer or something like that. And I don't know, just get it out. Fine, fine, it's good, fine. How are you? Right? Pass it on, pass it back. And all of this is masking. All of those answers are masking of sorts. It's just this one is a little bit of I guess a little bit of a masking add-on, because you're adding on this sort of extra performance thing of recovering properly, I guess. Because there's this whole industry out there around getting better. I mean, I'm kind of in it in a way of the whole wellness thing. And so there's a lot of expectation from a lot of people, or so it seems at least, is that when there's an issue, right? Like whatever it might be, it could be autistic burnout, it could be something else related, is that there's sort of this path you take, or this kind of trajectory that you get yourself on. So say you go to a therapist, you go to a coach, you go to a class or a workshop or something like that. There's some kind of form of help, and you sign yourself up for sessions, and then you go through it, right? You go to those sessions, you work your way through the course, you learn stuff, and everybody sort of just expects you to get better, right? They expect every week you work your way through, accumulate all those therapy hours, that you're getting better on some kind of trajectory. I think people understand it could be faster or slower, that there's different levels of intensity and all that, but there seems to be this general sort of expectation that you're improving over time. And that's oftentimes not the case, because you might be doing better for like 3 weeks or 6 months or whatever it is, and then you might go backwards, right? You might sort of regress a little bit. Maybe you learnt something new and it set you back a little bit. But that's part of the process, especially of autistic burnout. It's true of other things too, but especially of burnout. You're going to move sideways. You are going to move backwards. It's not wrong. And a lot of times it's just kind of neutral. You kind of stay around the same place. You're not getting better, but you're also not getting worse. And that's good. That's really good in burnout. And one of the other things that's really true, especially of autistic burnout, is there's so little knowledge and education of it. I don't know how to put it, but I've been in so many certifications and courses lately, and there's no coverage of autism, like absolutely none. Our experience is not represented at all, even in spaces and topics and whatever where it really should be, especially in these trauma spaces. But I can tell you, if there is anything at all, it's not accurate, or it's almost like exploitation because we weren't involved in the whole writing of. So I'll say there's a lot of lack of education about what this experience is really like. And then what happens is this other thing, is you end up having, or you don't have to explain yourself, but you feel like you almost should. Because whoever you're talking to, it might be a therapist, a coach, a family friend, whatever, they don't understand this experience. They don't know what it's like. They might think it's kind of like depression, or it's like work or burnout, and it's neither of those things at all. It is very different than that. And so then you might feel the need to explain to your own therapist about what's actually going on, because they don't know what's going on or what this thing is actually like. And then they respond to it. And if you're like me, you know that that's kind of like the even more risky area, because they respond to it and it shows you that they don't understand what it's like. They don't know the experience, and they might minimize it to something that it's not. And then you feel not believed, perhaps, because it's being minimized, it's being changed. And that lack of belief in our real experience, our lived experience in our lives and our brains, that can be one of the most difficult things of all of this, because now you're leaving that session feeling misunderstood. You're leaving that session feeling not believed, which is even worse. And that's oftentimes a big part of what got us into burnout in the first place, because being misunderstood, or believing or thinking that people don't believe you, that is some of the most triggering, damaging stuff there is. So receiving that while we're in burnout, that can be one of the worst things of all. So what happens is that we decide not to explain, and that we decide that perhaps not explaining and not really being understood or heard, because we just sort of mask instead, that's the protective thing to do. That's more protective, because we know that feeling misunderstood and feeling not believed is a much worse experience overall, that it's more dangerous for us. It's more expensive than the expense of masking. So that's why we choose to mask and not be heard or understood, because we know it might not, very well might not be possible. So what can we do? One of the most important things that we can do in the burnout process is to give ourselves that time, give ourselves that grace, and not put ourselves on some kind of pace or some kind of goal, or have a deadline or something like that, because that's going to make things a little bit hard. So not feeling the pressure to pace ourselves is a big one. And the other one is to find places, to find people where we can be understood, if at all possible. Because while it might be easier to mask in some of these situations, we ultimately do want to find the situations where we can unmask because that's going to be so helpful for us in the end. So if you can find those therapists or coaches or peer groups or a friend even that does believe us, that does have that shared experience perhaps of autistic burnout or something else that is quite comparable, or just they will believe you if you do explain a little bit. That can make a big difference in our ultimate recovery from burnout. Because we really don't want to go to this thing where we start believing the mask, because believing the mask is going to be quite risky. We might start believing it and going back to a full schedule or thinking, we've taken enough time and we've said no this many times to this person. I'm just going to say yes this time, even though I'm still in burnout. That's one of the risks. So we want to protect ourselves against that. And before I go, I just want to say we don't owe anybody that explanation. We don't owe anyone that labor of explaining our very vulnerable brains and our lived experience because we don't owe them that story. We don't owe them the psychoeducation either. That's their labor to take up. And especially when we are in a burnt out state, like it's not healthy for us. So don't feel like you ever owe anybody that explanation of your brain. So this is Wired Divergent. I'm Jen deHaan. I have a bunch of resources on my website like nervous system regulation, follow along, audio practices. They're free, they're ungated. You can just go click and play them. I also have a newsletter where I send out things when I update. So go check those out, jendehaan.com. I'll put a link in the description. Bye for now.